day, lords and ladies, and welcome to a Cornish review of SteamWorld Heist 2. Now, I did play through SteamWorld Heist 1 on my channel a long time ago, and I have been looking forward to this release for quite some time. It came out not so long ago, and I picked it up in a sale. It is a game developed by Thunderfall Development and published by Thunderfall Publishing. It is a turn-based tactics, sort of quirky, funny, sort of steampunk-esque game with some RPG elements, party management, resource management, that kind of thing, with some open-world elements mixed in. All the all a rather quirky little experience. So, we are going to do have a review of this game. Because I have played through it to completion, and I have got most of the achievements in it on their equivalent of normal difficulty. So I can give my opinion on it both on the good and on the bad. But first of all, let's look at the options menu. So gameplay, you have rumble, camera pan, aiming speed, talk speed. So you have a nice variety of options. All in all, quite a nice range. Audio, music sound volume, so basically your standard sort of setup, graphics, brightness, interface, overskin adjustment. I do like the fact that if you hover over anything, you do get a breakdown of what it means at the bottom, which is really nice. You can do it either in mouse and keyboard, or you can do it in controller, I believe. Languages, you have a nice range of languages, which is always nice to see. So overall, a really nice solid game. Options menu. So I won't be diving into my save of this to basically show off, because it's right at the end of the game, which will spoil a lot of things. So we'll basically start a new save. As you can see, you have a lot of party members you can collect. This is the full party roster here, as you can see, and this brings us to one of the issues that I have with the game. Its length. As you can see here, 37 hours, we're nearly 38 hours, and this is before I did the boss fight, so you're basically looking at closer to 40, maybe like 49 and a half, like 39 and a half. And that is partly to do with the fact that the game has a grinding mechanic built in. They expect you to basically go back and grind through certain systems of the game. It's tied into a perk menu, which I will show off in a second. But yes, so, and it can be a bit tedious, to be honest, but we'll get into that. But overall, all the characters have their own class feats. Similar to the first one, the class system is a lot more diverse than it was in SteamWorld Heist 1. With the classes being a lot more fluid, and the different characters switching out of different classes and into different classes at will, depending on what their primary equipment is. But they still do all have individual character features that are unlockable and upgradable. So let's dive into the first game. I played for the game predominantly, well, all the missions I played through on Experienced, and any mission I went back to do grinding I played on story mode, because to be honest, if you're going to grind just for character levels, you wanted to do it quickly, because this game can, especially on the higher difficulties, can become a bit bogged down in the amount of enemies, but we will get into that. So let's start the game. Let's do the recommended tutorial.
Ah, the great sea, serenely orbiting the core of the shattered earth. But don't be fooled by that peaceful glimmer. There's a crisis brewing, a water crisis. Mysteriously, this most vital commodity is going bad, corroding metal limbs and mechanical hearts alike. Scarcity is inevitably followed by strife. Already the Royal Navy is enforcing strict control over resources. tenuous peace secured in the Age of Heroes hangs in balance. And as hardship spreads on the tide, tensions are rising to a boiling point. It would take only a small spark to set it all off. However, these issues are not what's bothering Captain Quincy Leeway. With his submarine confiscated by the Royal Navy, the weight of unmet expectations press heavily upon him. Yet word of where his precious vessel is being held could mean a shot at redemption. So, bottling his self-doubt, he heads out to gather his ragtag but loyal crew. Together they must reclaim his ship. And after that, adventure out onto the high seas, and for our good captain, a second chance at living up to his legacy. And perhaps even a place among the heroes of SteamWorld legend.
Welcome to the world of SteamWorld, folks. I will say, for those of you who aren't familiar with the SteamWorld setting, it is actually quite a long-running franchise. I believe there are 5 or 6 games all tied into the mythos of SteamWorld, and they actually all tie into each other with, for example, the SteamWorld Heist games taking place after, I believe it's the second SteamWorld dig game. Because I know SteamWorld, the setting from the first SteamWorld game. I played the first one a very long time ago, and in that the world was still intact. As you can see in the background up here, it's all broken apart. And this actually happens in one of the SteamWorld games. So you can go back and you can play it and you can see how it folds out. But let's dive into the game proper. Captain Leeway, Miss Clutch, do you read? Well, loud and clear, Captain. These Vectech communication devices saw a wonder. Indeed. They come in handy on the mission before us. These dastardly diesel bots are holding my submarine somewhere in the compound. How did they manage to nab the sub from you anyway, Captain? A tale for another time, miss. The entrance is just up ahead. Find a way in and rendezvous with Mr. Hotchkiss. While you two handle the guards, I'll locate the sub. Aye, Captain, you're so cool. So yeah, this game has it's basically a 2D turn-based tactics game in the combat section of it. As you can see down here at the bottom, you have your character. Their health bar is in green. Their class is depicted here with, in this case, it's a sniper class. So basically, you have the sniper mark here, and the 2 actions that they have per turn. So the first action is always in orange. The second action is always in blue. So let's move up to here. I need to look around for a way to open the door. So yeah, you can look up, panning around with the mouse, hitting the trigger mechanics to do it. So yeah, as you can see here, we go for a basic tutorial. You have 2 actions per turn. You can shoot. If you shoot, you end your turn immediately. But there are feats in the character options that basically allow you to overcome that. So let's do shift to aim. And as you can see, we have now an aiming ability. You can aim with mouse. You can move with the WSD keys. Personally, I find mouse is a lot more sensitive and not so easy to aim. You do have drift in this game, to be aware. You can either press space or you can press mouse button. There is a period of time where it does slow down. So, for example, we can pop it like that. Halt, state your business, Steambot. I'm to spec your moorings. Yes, that's it. Only enlisted diesel bots have clearance to enter this facility. I'm sure you'll find some grunt work for you in the stockade. That's all your steambots are good for anyway. Dang. Subterfuge doesn't work. Lock and load, Miss Clutch. Golly, I better find cover. Unpolished foghead. So yeah, in this world, I always like it. I find it fascinating. There are actually different kinds of robots. You have the steambots, which are the main protagonists of the games. They run off water. You have diesel bots, which basically run off diesel. And there are other kinds of things as well, but I won't spoil that. So now, if you left control, you cycle through your abilities. We only have one ability, which is reload at the moment, so we will reload. All weapons have animations, which are very nice. I'm not going to bother to go through the tutorial to show you what it does, because it basically just tells you how a sniper works, for lack of better words. Is wielding a sniper rifle, making a sniper. Snipers deal high damage but have long aim lines, but need to take an action to reload before they can fire again. No enemies around, you automatically reload. So yeah. So if you're in a battle map and there are no enemies, your sniper will automatically reload. Be aware there is crit hitting in this game, which normally means if you hit them in the back of the head, if you hit them in the head or in the back, you get additional damage. At the moment, we've got a lot of drift because we haven't got aim skill up, so we're just going to pop them in the head with a single shot, and we shall advance forwards. Now, you can shoot people's heads off, or hats off in this game, and then wear them. It's really just a cosmetic thing, they don't do anything else, but it's one of the features, notable features of SteamWorld, that you can steal people's hats. So you can press F to hold end your turn early. So let's open it up to see what's going on here. Freeze. Okay. Yikes, I better sprint for cover. I won't be able to shoot once I sprint, but it's better to stay safe. So yeah, if you use both your actions to move, you can't then shoot. It's your standard turn-based tactics game, action economy. To make sure I take him out, let's amp up my gun with a power shot. So yeah, as you can see here, it explains what it does. Sniping with power shot that gives you a +1 damage. Always compare the damage to you deal with your enemy's health. So you can basically hover over your enemy at any time. You don't need to hover. You can see there he has 3 HP. With this, if we activate it, the attack will do 3 to 4. So let's try and get a nifty headshot off, shall we? There we go. And a lot of the skill of this game comes in your ability to basically land perfect shots. Like, the aiming in this game is always a key element. Now, visually, the settings are quite beautiful. The music's good as well. They actually have a band that did a lot of music for this game. But the aesthetics of this game are really pleasing and really nice. And this is what you got in SteamWorld Heist 1. This was the main body of the game. Okay, you got your outnumbered intruder. Oh, rust buckets. Worry not, Miss Daisy. I've got you covered. So you can press Q and E to switch between classes, or you can just click on the portrait yourself. So, we're going to select this grenade, and we are going to blow them to Kingdom Come. There we go. We showed the scoundrels what's what. Oh, thank you, Mr. Hotchkiss, sir. No need for formalities, now you're part of the crew, miss. Right, sir. Out of job, you two. I've got the eye on the submarine, further inside the complex. Make your way up over there and keep the Navy boats busy. Okay. So we see here, basically, it's a rough breakdown of how to do everything in the game. A good rule of thumb, if possible, always make sure to aim to end your turn in front of the door if you're going to move through, because it takes an action to open a door. So if you're standing right next to it, it is free, but if you're a distance away, it will cost you that action. Okay, so let's move up. Now, as you can see here, we have a couple of different types. I will try and snipe off one of their hats to demonstrate the hat mechanic. As you can see, the hat flew off, because if you shoot close enough to the head that you missed the head but you hit the hat comes off. So, here is the hat down below, and we need to basically get into a good position to defend. So it is going to take a bit of a hit on us. Unfortunately, that will give the enemy a few chances to rattle our bones, unfortunately. So let's take care of him. Not great, unfortunately. He misses. Ooh, really nasty Ricochet. Let's get up here. And his class, which is the Reaper class, every time you kill an enemy, you get a bonus. Well, if you kill an enemy with the first attack, you get a second attack. Okay. So let's just go down and grab the hat. Any hats that you do not pick up get lost. So let's first grab that hat, and I can see a button up on this wall. I do wonder what it does. So let's see if we can grab it. No, we're going to need to be up here for that. There we go. Oh my, I believe I heard some mechanism unlocking. Let's just quickly run down here. Actually, no, I'm not going to. I don't want to spoil the story for people, so we won't see this. Basically, there's a lot of things in this game that, unless you explore for, they give you like bonus information, which I am going to keep hidden just because I don't want to spoil it for the players. So, our character is a bit beaten up, which is worrisome because we don't have a lot of supplies left. So let's open the door and get in. What's all this commotion about? We need to finish dismantling the submarine to find a core, roars Commander Batterfox. Holy macaroni. Yeah, this game is quite sort of quirky in its humour. Oh my. You won't let you tarnish up the submarine any further. Inferior scrap metal creatures, the ship is insignificant. Your core's destructive destiny is all that matters. What's the guy's deal? What core? Prepare to be bombarded. Brace yourself, Miss Daisy. So we did heal going into the boss fight. Fantastic. And this game doesn't hold its punches when it comes to how challenging its fights can be. So be aware that going into fights, if you're unprepared for them, will cost you a lot. You can lose. There is like a grading system. It's similar to XCOM in that regard. One benefit, though, is that the game is very, very generous with restarting missions and difficulty. So there has a lot of anti-frustration mechanics built in. But the downside is that if you go into missions unprepared, it can be very hard to succeed. The sound is top-notch in this game. Like, I think it's just... The sound is really good. The gunplay is really good. I do have some gripes, but we'll get onto those in a second. Let's break Canopy so that we can do some headshots to him to get bonus damage and maybe steal his hat. Because what self-respecting officer would be seen without his hat? One good tip is if you're standing behind cover, the cover you're standing behind you can shoot through with your character. You just need to basically aim for it and shoot. Okay, so he's got a toast our cover if we don't move. So let's do that. Let's try and get his hat. Unfortunately, that did not work. Let's try and get a power shot off. Now, bouncing shots in this game is always incredibly important. Unfortunately, we're not having a lot of luck, so let's aim at its backpack instead, which is his weak point. Commander Batterfox. No, impossible. You have no idea what forces you are dealing with. I shall find you no matter where you go. Well, that was crazy, says Daisy. Great diversion, crew. If you still had my gun arm, I would have been right by your side. But while you keep them entertained, I secured the sub. There she is. We've dismantled her weapons and trashed the air tank, but she's still able to carry us home again. We'll get her fixed once we're back in business. We're bound to gain honour and glory this time, Captain. Ah yes, of course. I can't believe it. Me sailing with Captain Quincy Leeway, son of the legendary Kraken Bane. Ah yes, being someone's son, my greatest accomplishment, mutters the captain. Let's just leave this pot at the past in our wake and get that keel wet instead. And this is the thing, like the cut screens in this game are really pretty and the music's nice. But here you see, this is the first demonstration of the level up mechanics. Each class has 5 levels, and each level has different feats tied to it that you can turn on and off at will. So it's sort of, it has a feat system, but it's a very flexible feat system. And you see we've got our first hat, Swordsman's Hat. Such flair. No one will miss your dramatic arrival when you cover the top of you with this covering the top of your head. Welcome back, Captain. I knew you'd save me. Instead of loitering at some bar hiding from this terrible water crisis that threatens our steam-driven society. Aha, Steinwich. Glad to see you're still there. Oi, those disrespectful diesel bots almost took the old sub apart. But luckily they seem to be after something else than old Stanwich. Now, where are we heading, Captain? Home to Angler's Reef. We need to get back to earning some clean galleons. With the fresh water going bad, it's a good idea to stock up. Back to trying to make it out on the waves. I told your legendary ma not to worry about leaving her submarine in your clamps. So we've been at it for a while, and some bots are saying you ain't got what it takes. But I'm sure you'll live up to her legacy any day now. Now that I've got the sub back, there's no real excuse. He groans. My cog, little old me crewing on this mystical submarine. What luck. Adventures await us, along with a glory and an honourable death, says Wesley. Oh, you must be all tired after heroically freeing me in the sub. You should be looking for a bar to let the crew recuperate, Captain. Right you are, home spot. Waters are under naval control, but I'm sure we'll find somewhere safe to dock. Roger you are. Roger that, Captain. And remember that you can always come to talk to old Stan if you need it, and wondering what to do next. So yeah, I do love the interior of the ship. It has a lot of quirky character to it. I must admit though, I have seen a lot of concept art for other designs they had, and some of them were also really cool. These little orbs you see are basically like investigation spots. I am not going to touch them because obviously I don't want to spoil it for people playing the game. So yeah, let's get out into the world map. Alright, let's scout for a bar to rest at. Now you can move with WSD key, or you can just press a location and your sub, you can hold on your mouse on the location, your sub will go in that location that you're pointing in. So this is the open world section. Now, this is where I have issues. Okay, we pick up some galleons, which are basically your currency. There are free currency resources in this game. There are bounties, there are water galleons, and then there are crystals. Each are used differently. Crystals are used to upgrade the submarine and your crew's feats. So if we go to escape, you can see here, we have bounties which haven't become available yet. We have crew, which you can see here. You can select different jobs. There's brawler, boomer, engineer, sniper, reaper, flanker. Breakdown of her stats, how much aim, the crit chance they have. Personal upgrades, which are what you use crystals to upgrade, to unlock and improve. Unique items, what hat she's wearing, we can switch it out with whatever hat we have in the group, so we can switch each other's hats around. And the cog system, as you can see here, you see we've got 3 out of 3 cogs left. So each class has a number of different feats which you can have active in any other class as well. As you can see, let's go with this one. Normally it shows you, but obviously it's locked at the moment. Basically, certain feats will basically say, oh, this can be used in another class, but it costs a certain number of cogs to use. So the game really sort of aims you down the track of multi-classing, basically having multiple classes unlocked with certain levels in them to get access to particular abilities or talents. I see them on talents and abilities because some of them are just passive, some of them are active. And this is where my main gripe with the game comes in, to be honest. If you're playing it on normal difficulty, which I am, it is very easy to get mission locked in a certain way. I'll explain it to you simply. First time I played this game, I had gotten to about a quarter of the way through the game, and I found myself stuck in the fact that we'd got to a new region, and the game had obviously been expecting you to multi-level your characters by this point, so you'd have various talents unlocked. Unfortunately, I had not realised this fact, and as a result, I found myself basically in lack of a better word, a death spiral, where I couldn't easily complete missions without drastically dropping the difficulty, because the game really expects you to multi-class, but it doesn't tell you about it, and it doesn't tell you about really multi-classing for a while. So it's very easy, if you're not prepared, to basically get yourself in a situation where you're forced to basically drop the difficulty right down low to even have a chance of completing missions. Which is one of the gripes I have with the game. They don't introduce the concept of multi-classing early enough to allow you to overcome these issues. Now, as you can see here, you can see that our squad mates or shipmates icons are grayed out. That is because every day your squad mates can only do one mission apiece. So it can be rather problematic, especially early game when you have a limited amount of actions. You can do heave-ho, UV marauders, that submarines protected the Royal Navy. I believe you stole it from us first, you scoundrels. Preposterous, the Royal Navy cannot steal, we commandeer or confiscate. Now prepare for battle. Yikes, the sub is no state to fight evasive maneuvers. Your sub can be destroyed, and that impacts you lose bounties, which is what the bounty system is. The bounty system is a resource that you get from completing missions in the world map, which you can then use to unlock special rewards in the game, and a lot of the game's best gear is tied into that mechanic. Now you can hear this music in the background. This is one of the strong points of this game, my personal opinion, is the music. The gameplay is really good, the music is fantastic, but my issue with SteamWorld Heist 2, as you saw back here with the ship, let's just get back on the ship for a second. One, there's a lot of backwards and going backwards and forwards, like you're going backwards between locations. As time goes on, more and more of your time is spent traversing the world map rather than having fun. And unfortunately, your submarine never really gets much faster than this. There's some upgrades that can increase its speed, but overall it's actually fairly slow. And the world map is surprisingly large, so you can end up spending a lot of time just traipsing backwards or forwards between locations to gather resources, to gather bounties, and the game does stretch on, in my opinion. Also, the fact is that if you get killed in the world map, you lose all your bounties, and thus you can't get some of the better equipment or get a lot of resources easily. It is one of the more frustrating mechanics. So I don't want to go much further into this game because I don't want to spoil the story, because the story is its real strong point. So I am going to basically be ending it here, but I'm going to end up here with basically my basic opinion of this. SteamWorld Heist 2 is really much a game split into two halves. You have the sort of turn-based tactics section of the game and the exploration, which you can see here. Like, there are locations that you can go off and sort of like run around as a character and do simple puzzles and simple exploration to get rewards. and that's really fun. The core turn-based tactics element of the game is still really fun. I like the equipment, like the item equipment and equipping special weapons and items to your party members. The whole RPG system like that is quite good. The multi-class feature is interesting. I do, however, argue strongly that they should have introduced the concept of multi-classing right at the beginning of the game, so that you do not run the risk of becoming locked out in later parts of the story due to the fact that your characters are not spec'd to basically handle what you're facing, which is a pretty, I think it's quite a common thing that people found frustrating of the game from what I've read in reviews. I've especially found it frustrating having to start the game over again after 20 hours of play. But my main gripe is the world map. There is not a quick travel ability in the world map. You literally have to slug it out on foot. So once you have the whole world map opened up, especially if you're wanting to go backwards and forwards and harvest certain resources, it becomes quite tedious, and a lot of your time can be spent just like traipsing backwards and forwards around the map, trying to get stuff. So my review of the game is that I would recommend SteamWorld Heist, but I would caution people going into it that it's longer than you'll think the game is. The game, as I said, went on for nearly 40 hours, but that was because obviously you have to do grinding and various bits and pieces, which as your ship's crew becomes larger, the amount of time you have to spend on grinding goes up. Now, I will caveat this by saying that there are features that you can unlock for the submarine which allow your characters to level up to certain levels of classes extremely quickly, but that only becomes unlocked at certain points in the campaign. So you have to get to that point in the campaign to get that feat to basically stop it being it's basically an anti-frustration mechanic. And I can see that they intend it to be used later on in the campaign, but in my opinion, you have to start multi-classing early, just because otherwise you can become quickly overwhelmed by the enemies that are thrown against you, especially later on in the campaign. So my main issue that SteamWorld Heist 2 has is it's the issue of it just being like getting around the world map is quite tedious, especially later on in the game. It can be quite tedious and quite slow. And 2, they really needed to introduce and explain the multi-class system early. Also, to be honest, the game slightly overstays its welcome, especially in later chapters where it really sort of stretches on. So like, it feels like there's like a lot of missions in the later game where they could have probably just made like a larger encounter rather than having so many individual missions. I was, to be honest, towards the end of the game, I was skipping a lot of the non-story important dialogue for the side missions, just because obviously it's like I wanted to see everything of the game, but it takes quite a long time to get through like half a dozen, like, so I think it was like something, I think the end game has something like 8 or 9 individual missions, and all these missions can take quite a while to do individually. So I think the main issue that SteamWorld Heist has is that it slightly overstays its welcome, and it can be quite tedious in like the open world sections. But if you like turn-based tactics, if you like good music, if you like a funny, quirky storyline, because the storyline is really good and the characters are really interesting, then SteamWorld Heist 2 I would recommend, and I'll leave a link in the description below for where you can find it. I've been Cornish-Knight, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.